everybody! How are you guys doing? Are you guys feeling great? Well, I know I am because we are going to start on a new chapter today and we'll be learning about fractions. I'm sure you have heard of this word before, but before we go into that, let's take a look at the questions that we have done before this, okay? My name is Puyi and you're watching Year 5 Mathematics from iTTV. Now, boys and girls, let's check the answers for the 3 questions that I gave you in the last lesson. Are you ready? Let's go. Question 1. There are 4 numbers here. Find the difference between the largest and the smallest number. Okay, now which one is the largest number? Which one? The second one, 678,310. Now what about the smallest answer? The smallest number? 67,831. Now to find the difference, what operation must you use? Subtraction. Okay, so there we go. We take 678,310 minus 67,831. And that will give you the answer, 610,479. Pretty easy, yeah? Now question 2. Given that P over 20 times 55,000 equals to 24,750. Find the value of P. Okay, pretty tricky this one, yeah? Now, the thing that you have to remember for this question is division is the inverse of multiplication. Now, the working will look something like this. On the left-hand side, you can actually divide 55,000 by 20. And that will give you 2,750. Now, we know that division is the inverse of multiplication. So, we can say it as such. P equals to 24,750 divided by 2,750. And once you have solved it, that will give you P as 9. So that is the answer. P equals to 9. Okay? Now, let's see question number 3. A fisherman sells 405 kilograms of fish to a middleman at 12 ringgit per kilogram. The middleman then resells it to a restaurant at 18 ringgit per kilogram. How much profit did the middleman make? Okay, now let's take a look at what operations do we use here. First, we have a fisherman, who sells it to the middleman. How many kilograms? 405 kilograms at 12 ringgit per kilogram. So over here we have multiplication, yes? Now, multiplication is involved here. And we also know that the middleman then resells it at 18 ringgit per kilogram. So can you tell me, for 1 kilogram, how much profit did he make? That will be 18 minus 12 ringgit for 1 kilogram. So since he bought 405 kilograms, we have to multiply by 405. So that will give you 6 ringgit of profit for 1 kilogram times 405 kilograms. That will give you the total profit that this middleman make, which is 2,430 ringgit. Okay, now boys and girls, I sure hope that you got all the answers correct. Now, let's move on to the new lesson for today, fractions. Okay, boys and girls, today we will be learning about fractions. Now, I'm sure you've heard about this word, fractions, in Year 4. What does fraction mean? Now, fraction means to break. Now, fractions, there are 2 numbers, right? And these numbers actually represent part of a whole. Remember, there are 2 numbers, one at the top and one at the bottom. The number at the top is called numerator, and the one at the bottom is called denominator. In Year 4, you have learned about proper fractions. Now, proper fractions are fractions where the numerator is smaller than the denominator. For example, 2 over 5 or 3 over 7. Yeah? Numerator is smaller than the denominator. Today, we will be learning about improper fractions. Fractions whereby the numerator is the same or bigger than the denominator. Let me show you some examples. Take a look. I have some cakes here. 2 pieces of cakes. And for each piece, I have cut them into 2 pieces. So this is 1/2 and 1/2. Okay? Now, if I take 3 pieces of 1/2 and put them together, what do I have? Now let me show you how it's written. Yeah? Now, I have 2 pieces of cakes, right? And for each one, I've cut them into 2 pieces. Now, for 1 piece, it is half, right? So, it's half, 1/2. Okay? 1/2 can also be written as 1 at the top and 2 at the bottom. Sometimes we call it 1 over 2. 1 over 2. Can you see that the numerator is smaller than the denominator? 1 over 2 is an example of proper fraction. Proper fraction. Now, what if I have 3 pieces of halves, like I told you just now? 1, 2, and 3. So, it will be written like this. 3 at the top and 2 at the bottom. So, we will read this as 3 halves. There is also another way to read this. 3 over 2. Now, can you see that the denominator is smaller than the numerator? See, the numerator 3 is bigger than the denominator. So this is what we call an improper fraction. Yeah. Do you see the difference here? The number at the top is bigger for improper fractions, or sometimes they could be the same. Yeah? For proper fractions, the numerator is smaller than the denominator. Now, what if I cut 1 piece of cake into 4 pieces? What do we call each piece? I've prepared some of the examples here for you. Take a look. Now, if the whole piece of cake, there are 2 parts. So for each part, I will call it a half. For more, I will call them halves. Okay? Something over 2. Okay? It's half or halves. Now, if there are 3 parts to a whole, so 1 part is called a third. If there are more than 1, I call them thirds. 2/3 or 3/3 or 4/3. Now, if there are 4 pieces, I will call them each one a fourth. Okay? If there are more than 1 piece, they are fourths. Sometimes we can also call it a quarter. Yeah? Or if there are more, we call them quarters. What if there are 5 pieces that makes up a whole piece? So each piece is called a fifth. A fifth. And if there are more than 1 piece, they are called fifths. Fifths. What if there are 6 pieces that make up a whole? Each piece will then be called a sixth. And if there are more than 1 piece, they are called sixths. What about 7? If there are 7 pieces, each one is called a seventh. The more there are, sevenths. And if there are 8 pieces, each piece will be called an eighth. Eighth. If there are more pieces, eighths. And if there are 9 pieces that makes up a whole, yeah, so you call it a ninth. If there are 2 pieces of the ninth, you call them 2 ninths. Yeah? If there are 10 pieces that makes up a whole, each piece will then be called a tenth. What about there are 3 pieces of a tenth? What do you call them? 3 tenths. So you see, we actually use fractions in our daily lives. For example, half an hour. half an hour? That is a fraction. Or how about a quarter of the country's population? A quarter. That's a fraction. Okay, now boys and girls, let's see if you can work out some exercise questions that I've prepared for you on improper fractions. Now, question 1. Name the fraction represented in the diagram below. Is it a proper fraction or improper fraction? Okay, take a look here. I have a triangle, and this triangle has 3 parts to it. 1, 2, 3. Now, one part is shaded. So what is the fraction here? 1 over 3, or we call it 1/3. What if I give you another piece that looks like this? Now, I have 1/3, 2/3, 3/3, and 4/3. 4/3. 4 over 3. Is that a proper or improper fraction? I shall write it out. Now, if I have one piece, 1 out of the 3 pieces, that will be 1 over 3. Or we can call it 1/3. Now, 1/3, is it a proper or improper fraction? See, the numerator is smaller than the denominator. So this is a proper fraction. Proper fraction. Now, just now, what if I have 4 pieces of the thirds? 4 over 3. Now, how do we read this? 4 over 3. We can also call it as 4/3. Yeah? Or 4 over 3. Can you see? The denominator is smaller than the numerator. Okay? When the numerator is bigger, this is an improper fraction. Improper fraction. Pretty easy, right? You just have to remember, for proper, the numerator is smaller. Improper will be the other way around, yeah? The numerator is bigger than the denominator. Now, take a look at the second question. Write in words A, 7 over 4. B, 11 over 8. Now, let's try A. Okay, now for A, what do we have? 7 over 4. And what about B? 11 over 8. Okay, now, fourth. Denominator list just now. What do we call it? Sometimes we call it a fourth. Sometimes we call it a quarter. So if we have 7 pieces of it, so it will be 7/4. Yeah? Or we can also call it as 7 quarters. Yes, 7 quarters. Now what if there are 8 pieces that makes up a whole? So we call it eighth. Or no, there are more than 1 piece. So 11/8. Yeah? 11/8. Or we can also write it as 11 over 8. Yeah? For this one too, if you prefer, you can write it as 7 over 4. Yeah? 7 over 4. Yeah? All these mean the same. Pretty easy. Now, what about if I give you the words and ask you to write out the fraction? Can you do it? See, the third question I have for you. Write in fractions. A, 7/2. B, 9/5. Whoa! Do you still remember the list that I gave you just now? What are fifths and what are halves? Okay? So, 7/2. Remember? That's a piece, yeah? From the 2 pieces that makes up a whole. So 7 halves, there will be 7 pieces of this 1 half. So there will be 7 over 2. Yeah? 1 half is 1 over 2. 7 halves will be 7 over 2. That's how you get the answer. Now, the second one, 9 fifths. What do you think is the answer? Fifths. Okay, so fifths, we know there are 5 pieces that makes up a whole. 5. 9, so you just put a number 9 at the top. There you go. 9 fifths, also known as what? 9 over 5. Pretty easy, isn't it? Now, I want to show you something. Take a look at this activity instruction. Shade areas on 3 pieces of paper to represent 9 over 4 or 9 quarters. Okay, now I have 3 pieces of paper here. Okay? So I have 3 pieces of paper here. 1, 2, and 3. Take a look at the question. 9 over 4. So now I know that for each piece, 4 parts makes up a whole. Okay? So there will be 4 parts in here. Now, I shall start with the first one. How can I get 4 parts easily? Simple. By folding them once and then folding them again. Okay? So now I have 4 squares that makes up a whole. Yeah? Now, can you see if I have only this one piece over here, it will be 1 over 4. 2 piece will be 2 over 4. 3 will be 3 over 4 or 3 quarters. 4 will be 4 quarters. Yeah? So now, one whole piece, there are 4 quarters or 4 over 4. If I have 2 pieces, can you tell me? So, that will be 8 over 4, isn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's imagine. 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, the question wants 9 over 4. So, the question is right. I actually need 3 pieces. Now, if there is 4 quarters here and 4 quarters here, I need 1 more quarter to make 9 over 4. So, let me shade them first. 9 over 4. Okay, so now I'm going to shade them. Look what I've got. 3 pieces of paper that represent 9 over 4. Yeah? Now we know that one whole paper, there are 4 quarters. So one whole paper has 1 over 4, 2 over 4, 3 over 4, and 4 over 4. So I've shaded here 4 over 4 plus, let's imagine, 5 over 4, 6 over 4, 7 over 4, 8 over 4, and 9 over 4. Here are 9 over 4 quarters. Now, boys and girls, let's move to the fun part of today's lesson, brain teaser. Now, time to work out your brain. Boys and girls, take a look at this question. Which is longer, A or B? Which is longer, A or B? Take a good hard look. Is A longer or is B longer? Okay, time's up. What is your answer? How many of you says that A is longer? And how many of you says that B is longer? How many? Okay, here's the answer. A and B, they are of the same length. Okay, now this again, boys and girls, is an optical illusion. What you see may not be what it is. Okay, now take a closer look. Can you see the horizontal line in between? Yeah, 2 of them. They are actually of the same length. It is just the arrows at the end that are confusing. So of these 2 horizontal lines, they are of the equal length. Quite a trick, wasn't it? Okay, now boys and girls, grab your pen and paper. It's now time for you to try out some questions on your own. Got them ready? Now let's go! Question 1. Well, boys and girls, we have come to the end of today's lesson. Let's recap quickly. Today, we learned about improper fractions. Now, improper fractions are fractions where the numerator or the number at the top is the same or bigger than the denominator. For example, 4/3 or 7/5. Yeah? In the next lesson, we will learn how to compare the values of improper fractions. So be sure you tune in to learn more about fractions. I'll see you again. Bye-bye